morning, everyone. We had such fun last week playing with sink, float, with density and designing our boats, didn't we? So this week we're going to be doing some chemistry. We're going to be talking about mixtures, solutions, physical and chemical reactions. And we're going to do that by making some Play-Doh. That sounds like fun. And it is a very fun way to learn about chemistry. So we are going to only need a few ingredients: flour, salt, water, oil, and food color. We're going to start by making a mixture. And this pot is what I'm going to put my mixture in. My mixture is going to be adding the two dry ingredients together. The dry ingredients being the flour and the salt. So I am going to put 4 tablespoons, this is a tablespoon measure of flour, into my mixture cup. You can count with me. Now when you're measuring out a tablespoon of anything, don't heap it up. It's the top of the spoon has to be flat. 1, 2, don't forget to keep count. If you lose count, you're going to have to start all over again. 3, and 4. Now after I've done with ingredients, I do the same when I'm cooking. I'm going to put the flour out of the way so that I don't mistakenly think I've added it already. I'm going to add now 2 tablespoons of salt. Regular salt is fine. 1, 2. Okay, now I'm going to stir these up, and I end up with a mixture. A mixture is something where you have combined 1 or more ingredients, but if you wanted to, you could still take them apart. How could we do that with the flour and salt? I'll show you. I'm going to take a cup here, and I'm going to put a tablespoon of flour in. One. Okay, and now I'm going to take a different kind of salt. This is Himalayan salt. It's pink, and the crystals, that's the smallest part of the salt, are pink. So I'm going to put some pink salt in here. Now when I mix this up in my cup here, I can still see the salt in here. You can see the pink salt crystals against the white flour. And if I want to, I can separate them. I can take a sieve, and I can take my salt and flour mixture, and I can empty it into my sieve. The finer flour particles will pass through the sieve, and the bigger pink salt particles will stay in the sieve. So there in my mixture, there is my salt, pink and large crystals, and here is my flour, which is still white. So I'm going to dump out my flour here and wipe out my bowl so you can see how we're going to do the rest of the experiment. Here's my bowl. Now I'm going to mix up my wet ingredients. So for this, I need some water, and I'm going to take some food coloring. Now I'm going to not use very much water. I'm going to use just a 1/4 cup of water. not a lot, and you don't need to use it all either. And I'm going to put it into my glass so you can see it. Now I'm going to add about 3 drops of food color. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I use green. I'm very fond of green. So here I'm mixing it up now. You can't see the food coloring now. It has dissolved. It has gone into solution in the water. We have a solution now. You cannot take the food coloring out of the water now. Now we just have green water. Okay, so what we're going to do is, here are my, and then just to make our Play-Doh last a little longer and feel a little better, I'm going to put a little bit of oil in my water. About half a tablespoon, just a little bit. And when I pour it in and stir it up, the oil is not dissolving in the water. Oil and water do not mix. What is happening to the oil holds very tightly onto itself and forms balls of oil. It rises to the top of the water because it is less dense than water. Remember last week we talked about density. Things with less density will tend to float. Things with heavier density will tend to sink. So the water is more dense, that's at the bottom, and I have a thin layer of oil on the top, which is clear. Okay, now what we're going to do is I'm going to just put some of my water, not all of it, just a little bit of it, and my water and oil mixture in my bowl. There, I put about half of it in. And now I'm going to take my dry ingredients and I'm just going to dump them in, my salt and my flour. And now I'm going to stir, 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 and try and make a dough. Now you have to play around with how much water you need to add in order to get it to end up looking like a dough. So this is, I can see right away, not going to be quite enough water. So I'm just going to add just a little bit more, not too much. You can't take the water out. You can add more water, can't take it out. At this point, we are forming a chemical reaction. We are making something, when we add the water, we're making something completely different now. From a powder, we now have a sort of a solid, a soft gel-like solid that we cannot turn back into the original ingredients. Now I'm going to just put a little bit more water in. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my hands in there and start working it around. When you put your hand into making clay, if you were making a cake, you would not want to do this because, you know, you have to eat it afterwards, but nobody's going to be eating this Play-Doh. So I'm going to scrape this off the spoon, and then I'm going to put my hand in there. And I'm going to what's called knead the dough. I'm squishing it and squeezing it and pushing in the dry ingredients into the wet to try and make something that is going to look like cookie dough or Play-Doh. And it feels interesting. It feels a little bit gritty. That's the salt in here. Now, what am I doing? When water went in here, what happened? Well, flour has protein in it. Protein is big, what's called molecules, tiny, tiny little pieces, units of the flour that we can't really see. When I add water, these proteins get sort of stretched out, and the more I squish it around, the more these proteins get squeezed out and form long, long molecules that are very flexible. They're wavy. You can bend them. So I'm going to take my dough out of the bowl now. I feel it's not sticky. It's not sticky. It feels like clay. I'm going to do a little bit more squishing of it and put my bowl down here. Bring my mixing board over. I'm going to squish it like this. Right, so we have those protein molecules come out. Now the salt helps this process happen. That's why we add some salt. We don't have to have it, but it helps. The oil will coat these long molecules and protect them from drying out. So the dough will last for a lot longer. So here it's feeling pretty good right now. I'm going to squeeze it and squish it a little bit more. And of course, the more you play with it, the more pliable, that's a new word too, pliable. That means that you can mold it and stretch it and bend it. And it's not sticky. My hands are not sticky at this point. And here we have Play-Doh. Play-Doh, we made a chemical reaction happen. We made a mixture of flour and salt. We added water and formed a new substance, our Play-Doh. And now we can roll it, we can do all kinds of things with it, make it into whatever we want. Now, once you've finished having fun with your Play-Doh, if your hands do get a little sticky in the beginning, put a little flour on them and then work this around, and it will gradually get much more comfortable to work with. Once you finish playing, put it in a plastic bag, store it in a cool, dry place, and you will be able to have much fun with it for hopefully at least a week or two. Have fun. This is one of the best ways to learn chemistry, is by play. See you next week.